has got to be one of the most nuts roads to WrestleMania ever. I've made 2 WrestleMania 41 prediction cards now, just because things change and I get a bit ahead of myself, like, I don't know what's going on. That wasn't even a sentence, but clearly I have no clue. Because now, if we go back to the rumor mill, and listen, I understand that it would be moving parts, to say the least. Apparently there are some voices in WWE who are saying, oh, hi, maybe we shouldn't do CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. Even if that was down on the table, why don't we do a switcheroo and do another triple threat match, which would be Cody Rhodes versus John Cena versus CM Punk. There's even more reports out there that saying some people are asking for CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. Who's Cody Rhodes? That's a completely different character we never want to see. Trust me, let's move on from that very quickly. And before we get into the nitty gritty, I think this is why WWE is in such an amazing place. We've just gone through 3 or 4 matches there. Any of them could headline WrestleMania on night 1. Any of them could headline WrestleMania on night 2. Some of them you wouldn't even need a championship for. And that is a pretty good thing, because it just means that your star power may be even above the power of a WWE championship. And that's really what you want, because of course the WWE title is important, but that can come and go. Whereas, well, your superstars can come and go as well. But when people are invested in the person, then putting a title around their waist is only going to make them feel like a bigger deal. Whereas sometimes, like, man, I really want this person to be in the main event. Let's make them a champion and see what happens, right? It can go both ways. So now we have to sit down and try and figure this out. I was pretty certain that night 2 WrestleMania main event would be John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, because I love the story of these 2 powerhouse baby faces going at it and clashing, with John Cena being like, listen, Cody, I really like you, my friend, but I need to win that 17th championship, which he did insinuate at the Royal Rumble press conference, and Cody being like, John Cena, you know, you're my friend, you're my pal, I looked up to you, you're my hero, you've done so much for me deep down in my Tootsie Toes, but you can't march into this house and take this championship. And I think what will eventually happen is they will be nice and hello to begin with, and then it will tippy-toe over, and I bet Cody starts going down the road of, this is what The Rock tried to do to you and you didn't like it, and now the roles are reversed and you're not seeing it in the same way, and he would be perfectly justified. And that then would create this swell of support where you have to decide. Don't worry about good guys and bad guys. Worried about who do you like, who do you not like, whose opinions do you agree with, who do you not agree with, and then come Las Vegas, you are just going to get this amazing noise from all over the place. And look, I actually think probably more people would cheer for Cena than they would cheer for Cody, just because he's reached that upper echelon in WWE where you're untouchable. But if you go to their entire careers, John Cena was way more the controversial superstar when it came to noise, because sometimes people didn't know what to do, whereas Cody mostly, since he's returned to WWE, has been a mega super over babyface. And I do think Cody would beat John Cena, and then that just makes his character so damn interesting. I don't want to repeat other things I've said on videos, but it's okay if he starts getting booed, and it's okay if he has a little bit of an edge, and okay if he has a little bit of an attitude. It's just the persona evolving, and WWE should run with that. I think Cody Rhodes is smart enough and a talented performer to not only expect that, but to know how to respond to it too, and it just makes it all the more interesting, especially if soon after WrestleMania Randy Orton turns on him. Maybe that's how you balance it back in your books. However, if all of a sudden you walk into my house and put a gun to my head and say, Simon, I think we should add CM Punk to this, I mean, who's going to get mad at that? It would be like having the best pizza ever and then putting more cheese on it. You'd be like, well, the cheese is the best part, so thank you very much. And you could still do everything that we've just talked about. I think the only negative I have towards it is the first time I have Cody Rhodes and CM Punk in a ring on a match, I want it to be one-on-one. I want to have the proper build-up, I want to have the proper promos, but then I also go into another space where I'm like, am I being... Do I want too much? Am I asking for too much? Am I enjoying the current situation to a point where really I need to check myself before I wreck myself? Because you're telling me we could get John Cena, Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk in a WrestleMania main event with a title on the line. And this is the other interesting part. I can't remember exactly what CM Punk's dream is. It's definitely to headline WrestleMania, and I'm pretty sure a WWE Championship was involved there too. If we do CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, 2 things can happen. 1, someone can certainly make the argument, depending on the build, that Jey Uso versus Gunther should be in there, because I'm convinced that Jey Uso is going to win that world championship. And are you really going to be able to outreact that when people go nuts for Jey Uso doing the yeet hand things? Arguably not. And also, it probably wouldn't be for a championship right now, given the lay of the land. And then there's the other argument, which would get so stupid. This would be doing the Seth Rollins Roman Reigns one-on-one match at WrestleMania 41. That's 10 years of story, 11 years worth of story, and you'd finally be putting it to bed, and you'd have the most incredible Jeopardy ever. Who the flub wins that thing. So if we go back to the Royal Rumble in 2022, during Roman Reigns' crazy 1,306-day run, Seth Rollins was basically the only guy who sort of managed not to get properly beat by Roman. Well, he didn't, did he? The whole thing was an absolute mess on purpose, and I would presume it was for this reason, because one day we could revisit it. So it just whams us right in the middle. Also made me think of the Giant Gonzalez. Never forget that. The Undertaker, of course, went on an amazing WrestleMania streak, but at WrestleMania 9, when he took on the Giant Gonzalez, well, you know, he didn't really beat him properly. You can look it up. It's on Google. That match is also terrible. And somebody used chloroform. It's a very, very strange day all around. So if you told me or asked me, what do I want the most? I think it's what I said before. I think what we did at the Royal Rumble opens up the door for CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. And then you're still holding Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk back. And we have done the one-on-one between CM Punk and Seth Rollins on the Raw debut, and it was great. And you can also plant the seeds there for whatever the flub we're going to do with CM Punk and Roman Reigns. In fact, that's how I think the finish would come about. I think Paul Heyman would be involved. And then if you're spinning out of WrestleMania and heading into a 2-night SummerSlam, and you can do CM Punk versus Roman Reigns there with, I don't know, Paul Heyman in a shark cage, whatever the flub you want to do, that feels huge to me as well. And of course, if John Cena loses a one-on-one match, he then gets to December, his own special pay-per-view where he does win the championship. Because if you do Cody versus Cena versus CM Punk, I mean, you could have Cody pinning CM Punk, and that, do you know what, that would be interesting. Look at me cut myself off like I'm not actually doing a video right now. Because then John Cena can be in a really difficult place. He was like, well, I didn't lose, but I didn't win. What does that say about me? And then that could actually spark of a CM Punk feud. And then maybe if Cody Rhodes is still the champion in December, you can redo that match. But do we want John Cena to be the guy to beat Cody? I'd put it on Randy Orton. Again, we've talked about that too. So it's fantastic that we can bring all of this up. And I implore you to get in the comments and tell me what you're thinking, because my gosh, it will absolutely explode your brain. If you do Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, as I close my eyes for no reason whatsoever, I think that probably has to be the main event night one, because you're going to have, it's difficult, right? Because the Jey Uso pop is going to be so difficult to overcome. But if anything was going to be able to overcome it and go on after it, it would be, think of the promos, and think of the package, think of the build, going all the way back to that Plan B episode of Raw, when Seth Rollins smacked Roman Reigns in the back with a chair. You're going to get people, even though it's never going to happen, especially not within the next 2-3 months, going, oh, Dean Ambrose is going to come back, and that's just going to fuel the flame as well. And then if you did rock into night 2 and you had CM Punk, you know, not only clashing with Cody Rhodes for the first time in that sense, but also doing stuff with John Cena, I mean, that's like we all took a bunch of drugs. Imagine I told that was going to happen 5 years ago. You would have marched in here and kicked me right in the groin, and I would have totally deserved it. But I do think these are the two things that are in play right now. And given the, what's the word I'm looking for? Failure, I think is the right word, of multi-person main events such as WrestleMania 2000, can't possibly call it WrestleMania 16. I don't think you want to move away from whatever your plan was. I think the WrestleMania Night 2 main event, as we now call it, if we call that the closing main event, Night 1 is still a main event. I need to do a whole video about this to get that off my chest. But if we are, that's the closers, that's what everyone leaving the building is going to remember. That's just how your brain works. I think it's always better when it's one-on-one. Like Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan was okay, as was Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton versus Batista, but that was WrestleMania 30 when we were just so desperate for Daniel Bryan to win. I'm pretty sure if they had said, oh, he has to beat an elephant, you know, they put the elephant in the main event. And the Roman Reigns Edge Daniel Bryan one was coming out of the pandemic and obviously entering 2-night WrestleManias, so we were kind of exploring new options. Other than that, and there'll be something I'm not thinking of right now, of course, but mostly, not WrestleMania 1, for example, but mostly we have stuck to one-on-one main events, and I think it just gives it a bit more gravitas. It gives it a bit more weight. I mean, listen, I was an advocate for CM Punk being in the Rock John Cena match back in 2013, the second one. I think it was 2013. And I liked CM Punk's idea. You have it as an elimination match. They get rid of him after 5 minutes. He gets his main event. And then you can do John Cena versus The Rock 2, which is exactly what WWE wanted to do. They still went with the one-on-one because they all sat down and decided, no, man, you know, it's the singles match that we do want. So I would still be leaning in that direction. But again, adding CM Punk into everything is not going to make it worse. It's going to make it better. And that would also mean at one point you get the Triforce promo. Cody to Punk, Punk to Cena, Cena to Cody. I mean, I probably got that wrong in my head, but they'd all be in the ring. It'd be like that bit in The Dark Knight Returns with the camera going around. Who is it? It's Commissioner Gordon, and it's Batman, and it's somebody else. I assume it's Harvey Dent, so that would be The Dark Knight, not The Dark Knight Returns. Whatever, whichever movie it is. Also, it's The Dark Knight Rises, so I have no idea what I'm talking about right now. Some people are saying, oh man, WrestleMania doesn't look very good. I'm clearly living in a different universe. I'm clearly living in the Phantom Zone. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and if The Rock isn't in play, which I don't think he is going to be, and if The Rock was always going to fight either Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns, I think all these people being moved in are the best substitutes. And of course, don't forget you have Drew McIntyre as well, which could actually be a third option because Drew McIntyre deserves a massive WrestleMania match. Now, the rumor is he's taking on Damian Priest. I am not saying that Damian Priest isn't worthy of that spot either. Damian Priest is absolutely brilliant, and we should not put disrespect on his name because he managed to turn himself into a super over babyface, which is not easy. But if you wanted to move some chess pieces around, you could indeed do Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns, right? That is the person that Drew McIntyre has been hunting down since day one. So you could absolutely pull it off, which means you could then do Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. I understand it's a round 2. However, that was the plan until we decided to do it on the Raw debut, which then also opens the door to continue on with Cody Rhodes or John Cena. Or maybe you do Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes. I mean, he literally turned up on SmackDown and said, I'm coming for you, Cody Rhodes. And then you can do CM Punk versus John Cena, and you can do Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. Now, how the hell that works with WWE titles, I do not know. But I don't think that's bad. I don't think it's any worse than we've already put out there, which kind of says to me that I do not think the plans are necessarily... I'm sure they have it penciled in, but not penned in. And I think the Elimination Chamber is going to be fascinating. Once again, I was so certain that John Cena was going to win it. Now, I think it could be CM Punk. I think Logan Paul is going to have a far bigger influence on this than I was expecting. Some people still think it's going to be Logan Paul versus John Cena. The reason I don't want that, I don't care what anyone thinks about Logan Paul, I just don't want John Cena versus Logan Paul to be John Cena's last WrestleMania match when you have a CM Punk. There's a Roman Reigns you could do from nowhere. You could do a Seth Rollins. You could do all these people that we've already talked about, a Drew McIntyre. You could do John Cena versus Drew McIntyre. I would just get more from that, but I think this is incredible. And every time one of these reports does come out, again, always take it with a pinch of salt because the only people that really know are probably what? Nick Khan, Triple H, and maybe a Bruce Pritchard and a Michael Hayes. I have no idea, but there's going to be a very small circle. I would even imagine people like Punk, Cena probably knows, but they must also understand it's the wrestling business and it can change on a whim. So yeah, totally crazy, totally nuts, but totally fun. And I think this is why wrestling is so great right now. There are just so many matchups that we can do, and all of them could potentially feel like a WrestleMania main event because you just know when we get to the promo time, and it's all in the sell job. Think of the amount of WrestleManias that we've been so excited about it. Actually, the build's been better just because sometimes you aren't going to hit a home run. That's just the nature of the beast. But with the non-scripted promos and people talking in reality and bringing in people's personal lives, which all wrestlers seem to love these days, I just think it's going to be fantastic, and I think it's something that we should all be really excited about. I don't know if I can do a poll in the comments. I'll have a look. But otherwise, I'm going to put these 2 triple threat matches next to each other. So even if I can't do it or I forget because I'm an idiot, make sure you do vote. And essentially, don't worry about the Saturday and the Sunday, just what you would like to see more with your eyes. Option 1, of course, is Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. And option 2 is John Cena versus Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk. So essentially, CM Punk is the outlier here, as he's always going to be. He is the biggest anomaly in pro wrestling, and that's why he's so damn good at it. Like, everyone always, you bring up CM Punk, oh, but he did this and he did that. I don't want anyone to be happy, and I want everyone to be super doopy joyful and not have any mental health issues. But I don't know the guy. I don't know what he gets up to. I don't know if he's nice or not nice. I have no idea, right? I had one interaction with him when I used to work for THQ, and he was a delight. He was very nice to me. I basically was his... I don't know what word you'd look for. Well, I was the guy at THQ. I used to PR the video game. This is like a long old time ago. But when he was on the cover, I was the dude that shadowed him when he did his press interviews. Is that the right word? He couldn't have treated me any nicer. So based on my own experience with him, he was a lovely, lovely man. But again, none of that matters, right? Because if we get into everybody's personal life, it will completely change the conversation. I'm talking solely from a pro wrestling point of view. I think he's great for wrestling. I think he's great for WWE. And I just want to see him on my television. I'm always like, what's he going to do? He feels dangerous, right? It's like when you're a kid, not when I'm a kid. So when some people are kids and the parents are like, you can't go with that guy. He's too dangerous. No one said that about me. Said he's bald and he's a nerd. I wasn't bald then, but you know what I'm talking about. But it makes pro wrestling exciting, and I want more of this. I want more people in it. I always want to be watching the television and not know what direction it's actually going to go, which is totally the best thing about WrestleMania 41. I couldn't call it. Every time I think, oh man, I'm going full geek here, I've figured it out. I haven't, and that's the whole point, man. I want it to be a roller coaster. And even if WWE tries something and it sucks, okay, we dust ourselves off and we try again. I just want to try new new things, which is why I'm such a huge fan of this Jey Uso stuff. I can't believe we're a matter of weeks away from Jey Uso winning a title at WrestleMania 41. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not going to win. Maybe Gunther's going to kill him. Then look into the camera and say, I told you, you shouldn't have believed in that guy's push. Then I will cry. But maybe that's the emotion that WWE is going for. And if it's not the proper main event, well, you are going to start worrying about it, because you'd have to presume if they do put it in last, it's because they know the fans are going to go crazy for Jey Uso. But I think it's wonderful. I think it's exciting. I think it's probably the most pumped I've been about wrestling in a long old while. And that is based off the last few years where everybody has kind of doubled down and rebuilt our faith in the product. You can't say fairer than that. Now again, comments, go and vote, or just put which one you prefer if I can't do a poll because I'm an idiot. Click the video on the screen, which is me talking about pro wrestling. Obviously, what else would I do? Like the video, share the video, subscribe. Please click the notification bell, especially if you are on the mobile. Otherwise, go to mine.com/Simon. You can Simon get 10% off. Again, it's all down there, as is social media, TikTok, Cameo, ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller. Any support you can give me is massively appreciated. We are around about 2 months away from WrestleMania. Let's just enjoy it, dudes. It's there to entertain you, so be entertained. Like what you like, don't like what you don't like. That's a stupid thing to say. Have some pizza with that extra cheese. See you soon.